Ladies and gentlemen, before we go see the Dead Sea Scrolls, we're going to spend some time here at this model. This is a scale model of Jerusalem as it would have looked in the year 70 AD, the night before its destruction by the Romans. Okay, and so there's a gap here, time difference between the time of Jesus and his crucifixion around the year 30 AD and 70 AD when the city is destroyed. Now, if you wonder what's the big deal, 40 years here and there, it is significant, okay, because we know that this outer wall on the right-hand side of the model was not there in the year 30 AD. It was added to the city about 10 years after the crucifixion and resurrection of Christ, and therefore the northern wall of the city at the time of Jesus would have been the one next to it inside the model, okay, the one that comes out of the Antonia Fortress and the temple, and then you see the curve right there all the way across and over to the back. So in other words, the area that you see on the right-hand side of the model between the two walls there was outside the city wall. This is significant because remember that the Jews would never bury anyone inside their city, okay, and therefore Jesus' crucifixion too and burial had to take place outside the city wall. So again, I'll expand on that later on. But first of all, just a few words about the model. This model was initially constructed in the early 1960s, just a few years before the Six-Day War, by a number of professors from the Hebrew University. Most of it was based on the descriptions and the writings of Josephus Flavius, the famous Jewish historian, and every once in a while they're making changes to that model based on new discoveries that are made on the field, okay? And so this is a scale model 1:50, and you see that they used natural stones just to give it a more kind of a natural looking style. Now, in terms of orientation, can somebody point to the east? That's right, the sun is rising in the east, okay? And so you see that we're facing now west, okay, looking at the city. What would be the name of the mountain we're standing on right now in reality?
Mount Scopus?
Mount of Olives.
Mount of Olives,
okay?
of course.
We're now on top of the Mount of Olives. The name of the valley below us on this side?
Kidron Valley.
The Kidron Valley. And now you can see the largest building in Jerusalem, in fact in the entire land in the time of Jesus, which was the Second Temple. I mean, look how dominating it is in the landscape of Jerusalem at that time. Very much like the temple platform today, the Temple Mount, that was the exact same size of the plaza surrounding the sanctuary. And as I explained the other day, you can see the different sections. You see the laser beam?
Yeah.
Look at the eastern retaining wall. Okay, this is the eastern gate. You see the green? Okay. You see that? Okay. This is the eastern gate. Inside is the sanctuary. You see the laser dot? Look carefully.
Yeah.
At the central part of the temple,
Yeah.
inside. Okay. And so I'm now moving the laser dot over to the... What is this? Well, the Holy. Okay, this building, the tall building, was called the Holy, and inside was the Holy of Holies. Okay, in fact, this building was divided up by a veil. The first half, which is closer to us, was called the Holy, behind these golden doors, and then the inner part in the back was called the Holy of Holies. So you see that there was a very clear hierarchy here, okay, spiritual hierarchy. Back in the day, everyone knew, both Jew and Gentile, man and female, how far they could go with regard to the temple structure. Everyone could go as far as the court of the Gentiles, which was the plaza surrounding the inner, the sanctuary. Only Jewish people could go beyond another point, and you see the fences on either side of the sanctuary. In fact, archaeologists found fragments of those pillars with inscription in both Greek and Latin, which was, of course, addressed to the Gentiles. And it said something like off limit, okay? The penalty for crossing into the Jewish section, which was the sanctuary, was death. Okay? It was punishable by death.
Where was that found? Up on the Temple Mount?
Yeah, around the Temple Mount area. They found fragments of that. Yes.
And the money changers would have been in the plaza outside.
I'll talk about that. Hold your horses, okay? Okay, so now we understand the structure, okay? The court of the Gentiles, which is the outer court, then the sanctuary, okay? Remember the accusation that was made against Paul, right? For bringing a Gentile into the temple. What they were saying was that he brought him not to the plaza, everybody could go there, but beyond a certain point, right? Into the sanctuary, which was a lie. Jewish women could go only as far as the court of the women, which is the first court inside there. Okay, you see the different chambers there. Then, beyond another point, only Jewish men could go. Beyond another point, in front of the holy, those golden doors inside, only priests and Levites could stand. Okay, that was the area where they offered the sacrifices. Only priests, okay, who were on duty. It wasn't a kind of a priestly country club, okay? The holy, right? They had to perform duties. And as soon as they completed their duty, they had to go out. And then beyond the veil was the Holy of Holies, the most sacred of places, okay, in Jerusalem and the entire country, okay? Now, the porticos surrounding the plaza were the gathering places. This is where Jews gathered. And one significant portico is the one above the eastern gate, okay? You can't see the columns, of course, because of the wall, but it was called Solomon's portico, and we believe that most of Jesus' teaching was done there in that portico. The southern portico on the left-hand side with a red roof, long roof, was the main gateway inside the temple compound. And many believe that the money changers and the vendors, okay, were in that building, because as a pilgrim, this would be the first portico you would come into as you came up the stairs. You remember the southern steps and through the gates. And so that was really the place, in a way, almost like last-minute shopping, okay? Like the duty-free area at the airport, right? People would basically change money and do all kinds of commercial activities there. And this is most likely the place where Jesus turned over those tables, okay? Now, over to the right, you see a big fortress with 4 towers. This is the Fortress Antonia. It was named after Mark Antony, who was the patron of Herod the Great in his earlier years as ruler. And later on, after Herod's death, the Romans used that praetorium and to house the contingency of Roman soldiers, the garrison that was guarding Jerusalem. This is where we believe Jesus' final trial before Pontius Pilate took place that night. Okay, you see that fortress? It's attached to the temple. And later on, it was also the same place where they brought Paul into the stronghold in Jerusalem. You remember rescuing him from the mob that tried to lynch him and before sending him over to Caesarea by the sea. So the Antonia Fortress, by the way, it was reduced to rubble. There's virtually nothing left of it, just some fragments at the bottom. And we're now